Interested in learning about wine, but not sure where to start? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Cork and Fizz Guide to Wine podcast. I'm your host, Haley Bowman, and I'm so glad you're here. I'm a wine enthusiast turned wine educator and founder of the Seattle-based wine tasting business, Cork and Fizz. It is my goal to build your confidence in wine by making it approachable and lots of fun. You can expect to learn everything from how to describe your favorite wine to what to pair with dinner tonight, and so much more. Whether you're a casual wine sipper or a total cork dork like myself, this podcast is for you. So grab yourself a glass and let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to the Cork and Fizz Guide to Wine podcast. Today, you'll be listening to part 2 of my interview with Tyler Balliet. And if you haven't heard part 1, I highly recommend hitting pause on this episode and going to listen to episode 102 first, the one just before this one. As a reminder, Tyler is an entrepreneur and journalist who's been reshaping how people experience wine since 2006. She co-founded Rosé Mansion, a massive rosé-themed wine playground in New York City that drew 225,000 visitors, and Wine Riot, a touring wine festival with 150,000 attendees. She's also named to Inc. magazine's 30 Under 30 and Wine Enthusiast's 40 Under 40. She's been featured on Good Morning America, CNN, and the New York Times, and now, of course, the Cork and Fizz Guide to Wine podcast. Her new book, Rebel School of Wine, is a bold, visually driven manifesto for a new generation of wine drinkers. In this episode, we'll talk more about why it's important to talk about the whole story of each wine region and not just a wine's traits. We'll get to know a fairly unknown wine region, or maybe a couple, that you should keep an eye out for, and how to build your wine team to drink amazing wine forever. Oh, and I also share a little tidbit, one of my favorite bits of the book. There's a secret, not a secret really, she tells us all, but it's a question that she has been spending like the last 15 years putting together, like what question you should ask the sommelier at a restaurant to drink really good wine. So I share that later on. And if you want to win a copy of Tyler's new book, Rebel School of Wine, head to my Instagram and find the post talking about this episode. There you'll find instructions for how to enter the giveaway. The giveaway ends on May 14th, 2025. Okay, let's get into it. I want to go back to something we talked a little bit about earlier with this idea that like culture is important to understand surrounding wine. And it seems like, as I'm reading your book, it's clear that like you're like, wine is not made in a vacuum. Just learning about its traits, where it's grown, it's not enough. Like we need to learn the story behind each region. And I loved one example in here is like the typical schedule or an example schedule of a Spaniard, a 30-something Spaniard. And it's funny because I'm reading that and I'm like, yep, I relate. I studied abroad for a couple of months in Spain. Yeah. I'm like, that is definitely it. And you understand how wine becomes a part of their life. But can you tell us a little bit more about why, you think the culture and putting little things like that in the book were so important?
Yeah. So again, I really believe that if you want to understand wine, you have to understand the people. And you have to understand why they make this and how it came to be and why they still drink it. And so I wanted to make sure that every single country I wanted people that lived in those places to read it and be like, how did you know that? And I'm lucky enough that I've gotten to travel a lot in my life. And then I have a lot of friends that are from a lot of different places, like how in Australia, the wines that they drink in Australia are very different than the wines they export to us here in the US. They have export wines, they have the wines that they drink. And in Australia, they have all of these great fresh produce and all of like these meats and seafoods. And they're so close to Asia. And so they have this style of cooking that is very like Asian fusion because they have all these people from all over Asia and then they have all these amazing ingredients. You smash that all together and you're just as likely to get a fork at a restaurant as you are chopsticks. And then the wines that they drink match that. They're light, they're crisp, they're clean. And
wait, you mean they don't just drink like heavy, big, bold Shiraz all the time?
They export that. That's for us, That's for the UK and that's for us. And yeah, they have them, but that's not what they're drinking, And with Spain, like you go to the bar 5 times a day, which I was like, oh, why do I live here? Like, what am I doing with my life? And then I got to go to Spain with my friend who's a wine, like owns a large wine import company. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, but yeah, you find out that these wines are made this way because they're having them with these salty little snacks. And they have to be lower alcohol because they're gonna have little sips here and there all day. I don't know how anybody gets anything done, but
I really thought that too when I was in Spain. They're like, yeah, we all take like a little siesta around like 3. We have a massive lunch at like 3 o'clock and then take a siesta after that. And I'm like, so do you go back to work? Do you not? And then it's like, and then we go out and we party until like, I
Mhm.
mean, and dinner isn't until at least, I mean, I stayed with an older woman, so we had early dinner at 9:30 p.m. But
Early
like,
bird special.
I know, right? I was like, what is this? But it is fun to know and think about, like you said, that like, yeah, their wines can't be super heavy, super that because they're and then that's also doesn't match their food. When I went there and I was like, it's potatoes and then salty like ham, cheese, that's but it's all very fresh and very, very,
Yeah,
maybe fried. There is a lot of fried stuff, but I
there's a
still
lot of
want
pride.
something light to go with it.
But they'll take some anchovies and it'll just be an
Yeah.
anchovy and some olive oil and some salt, and that's it. Or like a shrimp. It's just a shrimp, some olive oil and some salt, and that's it. They don't do anything to it. It's simple.
Yes. Yes. And the wine should match that. It should be simple, simple to
Yeah.
match. And it
And
always
a
was.
lot of it, and a lot of it. Because that's why they make so much cava, and that's why it has
Yeah.
to be so cheap, is because they just drink so much of it. And that's where the economics comes in too, is you have to look at like, okay, is this an import market, export market? Where's this wine going? Who's it going to? Who's drinking it? Why are they drinking it? How are they drinking it?
Yes. Just a quick reminder, if you are not on my mailing list yet, what are you waiting for? I would love for you to join. When you do, you'll get a free shopping guide that has 15 of my favorite wines under $15. Head to corkandfizz.com, scroll down to the bottom, and there'll be a little section where you can join the mailing list. I send out a weekly newsletter filled with wine tips, recommendations, special offers, and so much more. Now, let's get back to the show. I totally agree. And in talking about the regions, I don't think I've come across a book, even the Wine Bible, that has as many regions as you cover. I mean, just in the US, there was like mention of
Hmm.
Pennsylvania, Virginia, which I feel like should be like given more attention in
Yeah.
places. What else did we have? Michigan. And then outside of the US, there was Uruguay, Mexico, Canada. So
Hmm.
just for fun, I felt like this would be a fun thing for the show. Tell us about an unknown wine region that you think deserves more attention and why.
So I think you kind of hit on it, right? I am absolutely obsessed with US wineries from sea to shining sea. All 50 states make wine, all 50 states have wineries, and there's really cool wine in almost all of them. I've been trying to try wines from as many different states as I possibly can and get them. And I think what people forget, right, is they're like, oh, you can't make good wine in Nebraska. I actually had a great Sauvignon Blanc from Nebraska. And 50 years ago, right? If you said you made wine in California, people laughed at you. They were like, "That's not possible. Like, you're just being an idiot." And it takes a while to develop a wine region. It takes money to develop a wine region. And but it's happening, right? Like after Prohibition, FDR wanted to create a regional system like France and have the US government fund it, right? And so basically they were funding schools, and they were funding like wine schools like in France, and they were going to fund these farms that could experiment in different regions and figure out which grapes grew best. But then part of the ending of Prohibition deal is like the Republicans killed it and said no money in federal dollars will ever go to US. And so why is France number one? Well, part of the reason is that they spend $100 million every single year on marketing French wine. The government does, right? Every 10 years, they have an initiative to spend $1 billion on marketing and PR just alone. And so it's a big, huge investment. We don't have that here in the US, but yet we have such cool wines. Arizona has some really cool stuff going on. Check that out. I would say Michigan, especially the Upper Peninsula, like Traverse City makes Riesling. They've been doing it since like the 70s. Like they've been making exceptional Riesling since the 70s. I have a friend in Massachusetts that makes killer sparkling wine. Where else? Regional wine. Ohio has some interesting wines. There's some places. Oh, Colorado. So
Yes. Yes, I've had a
Grand
Colorado wine for
Junction,
sure.
Colorado. Like I was blown away. I was really, really blown away. And yeah, they cost a lot of money and they aren't maybe at the price per dollar, but you're supporting the region and you're helping it get there. Without support, it will never get there, because they don't
Yeah.
have government money like France, Spain, Italy, or any of these other countries.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I interviewed some winemakers. They're called the Storm Cellar in Colorado, and they make white and rosé and sparkling, and that's their focus because that's what Colorado in their area does
Yep.
best. And oh my God, those wines are so, and they're actually like for me reasonable. I know pricing is different for everybody, but for me they were like $30, so like
Yeah.
totally
Yeah.
reasonable.
I just meant like the price to quality ratio. Like
No, that's fair.
you can go to Spain and get a bottle
Yeah,
that's
we just
like,
have to like Europe's in its
but
own world.
but you're supporting local. It's like
Yeah.
buying, it's like going to the farmers market, or it's like, we need to build these regions. And if we want these in the future, we can support them this way, you
Yes.
know?
Yes. No, I totally agree. Okay, this is a perfect tie into the next question. I want to talk about the section in the book. Well, actually, I'm going to add to it because you mentioned something in the email, and I'm like, people need to hear this. But I like the section in your book about buying wine. I feel like it does a really good job of encompassing a lot of different pieces, not just here's what to do, at a restaurant or how to order on a wine list. Like it does. It talks about, like different ways that wine lists are ordered, why they're like that, what to expect, how to talk to a sommelier. I read the section on the business dinner and I was like, oh my God, that's genius. That's what like so many people need to know with wine about like what to order when I'm having a business dinner, or what to say when I'm at a small wine shop, or why maybe the grocery store isn't the place to be, but Costco is a good place to find, good
Yeah.
stuff. So I'm gonna encourage folks to like in the book, that's obviously one of my favorite sections, so go check it out. But you mentioned in your email, I don't know how you can add to all this, but I think you can, this idea of building your wine team to drink
Mhm.
amazing wine forever. What does that mean?
Okay. So I got my start in a wine store and I ended up owning a wine store, right? So I'm partial to wine stores. The wine stores are all about regular customers, right? A good wine store and a good boutique shop has no intention of ripping you off. They have no intention of upselling you. What? So they make 10 extra bucks today and then you leave mad? They want a regular customer. They need regular customers, right? And so build your wine team, right? You don't need to be an expert and you can't. Like I do this. Like you get a really good wine store and let them get to know you. They will. After your third visit, they will remember what you bought, what you liked, and they'll really easily be able to recommend you things that come in. Be dead honest with price, Like you just have to tell them, be like, I do not want to spend more than $15. Also, wine store employees know all the best bargains. That's what they drink.
Yeah.
Like, you really think these people are drinking like you think White Star employees are drinking $300 bottles every single night? Like, no. Like, the deals, right? And that's because, like, that's what you're bringing home and that's what you're serving to your friends. So, one, build your wine team. You need a good wine store. If you can get a cool wine bar and let them get to know you, that's also really great. A friend that knows more than you and can kind of take you along on that journey is really helpful, and you lucky enough to live near a winery, even if there's regional wineries everywhere, right? Make friends, like just make friends and everybody's going to help you. So you don't actually need to know that much about wine. Like when I go into a wine store, I never browse and pick something out myself. I ask them because it's their store. They know the wines, you know?
Yes, yes. And it's like and the thing that kills me about that's like my favorite tip to give people because it's like you get that at no extra cost. Maybe the little 2 or
Yeah.
$3 more you're paying for the bottle because you went to a small wine shop, but it's totally worth it because you literally this person is going to become essentially your personal shopper because they freaking love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. We all talk about algorithms knowing what you like. They will know what you like after your third visit. Like it's not that complicated for them. It's hard for you, but they know their inventory and they know what you like done,
Yeah.
and just be honest with them. And like, they're not going to look down on you. They're just excited you're shopping with them. They
Oh,
want you
yeah.
as a customer, but if you do go to a store and they do not make you feel welcome or good, then just don't go back, you know?
Yep, exactly. That's one of those things where it's like most, like as we're talking about these types of people, like we're describing most people. And if you have had the unfortunate experience to meet somebody who is not like that, they are the minority. I
Hmm.
promise almost most people in the wine world get into wine because they think it's really cool and they want to tell you all about how cool it is. And they want you to think it's really cool.
Yeah.
And so for the most part, most places are going to be good. If you don't, yeah, like you said, if you run into that, I'm sorry if it's the only wine shop in your area, but like you said, go, find a friend, go to a local winery. Almost everywhere has local wineries somewhere. Or even just like, and this is where I will do the one plug. I have a virtual tasting club. And the nice thing about that is that it is open to people in lots of different places. My family's from a super small town in Wisconsin. We do not have a wine shop. We have a single liquor store in the town, and so maybe finding something virtually if that is your only option. But I will also definitely plus one the finding a wine shop if you can.
But yeah, you're part of the wine team then, you know?
Yes, exactly. I love being part of people's wine teams.
Hmm.
Okay. Oh, one more thing before we talk about buying wine. Is it okay if I share? There was an amazing question in your book. It was like a little secret question
Yeah.
to ask the sommelier. Can I share it with folks? Hey, wine lover. Interested in trying new wines, but not sure where to start? Or maybe you've been thinking, I'd love to taste wine live with Haley. I mean, who isn't thinking that? Well, say hello to the Cork Crew, my virtual tasting club where wine meets fun, learning, and the best happy hour you've ever had, all from the comfort of your couch. Every month, we explore a new wine theme together. You'll get expert tips, delicious food pairings, and stories that bring each bottle to life. You can order the feature wines from my partner shop, grab something similar locally, or just sip whatever you've already got. No pressure and no wine purchase required in this club. In 2025, I've made this club even better. You get to choose between 2 tasting dates each month, and everything is recorded so you can catch up anytime. We've also just launched our exclusive Cork Crew app, where you'll find all of your event info, wine recommendations, community connection, all in one place. It is accessible via your phone or your computer. As a member, you'll also get 6 free guest passes so you can invite friends, quarterly wine trivia nights, winemaker Q&As, a private online community, discounts on private tastings, and so much more. And when I say everyone is welcome, I mean everyone. Whether you're brand new to wine or a total cork dork like me, you'll fit right in. Loud or quiet, wine curious or wine obsessed, this space is for you. Join today and get your first 2 months for just $8 a month. I mean, heck, that's like a drink at Starbucks. Use code WINE SPECIAL, no spaces, or you can save $80 on the yearly membership. When you sign up for the annual subscription, use code WINESPECIAL-YEAR. Head to thecorkcrew.com. That's thecorkcrew.com to sign up, and I'll see you at our next tasting. Cheers!
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so Tyler, in the book, this question. So if you're at a place that has a sommelier, so likely if they have a larger wine list or something, they'll have someone there to help kind of walk you through it. And one of the best questions to ask if you want to try something a little different and you're willing to be a little adventurous is to ask them, what is the best wine on the list that no one orders? I thought that was such a great question. I'm like, I don't think I've like gotten close. I've been the one I got to be known as at one restaurant, that girl that comes in that always orders a bottle of white wine because nobody else ordered a white wine when they go. And I'm like, but white wine is great. It's awesome. So then they started to
Yeah.
be like, oh, I think you'd really like this one, or like kind of got excited because I was different and grabbing new ones. But I've never asked that. So what is the best wine on the list that no one orders?
I workshopped that one for 15 years until I really kind of it hit me that those were the exact words. Because the wine buyers, they have these wines that they fell in love with, that they bought, and they're weird, right? They're from a weird place like Hungary or Croatia or like, Uruguay or whatever. And there's some grape that nobody's ever heard of. And so it doesn't sell on the list, but it's really exceptional. Also, it's almost always the cheapest bottle on the list.
Yeah,
Almost
because it's not
always.
popular, right? Because if
Yeah.
they bought it for themselves, aren't going to be selling a lot of it, so it's obviously not gonna, it doesn't have the demand that would bring it up.
It also always makes the som really excited. They're like, ooh. They're like,
I've had
they're out every single time they're like, I have something for you.
Well,
You
and my
know?
favorite is when you do that, and then you're drinking that bottle, and they're like, "Okay, somebody else opened this, or I had to open this for a buy the glass, and I just thought you would love it." And they come over and pour
Huh?
you a taste.
Huh? Yeah. Uh-huh. Like, sales rep dropped these off. And we think
Yeah,
about these
yeah,
ones.
exactly. They just because they see that you're interested, and again, us wine lovers are just obsessed and want to share it with anyone who will listen.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fun. I've had some really weird but cool wines that way, like that. I love weird but cool. That's like my jam.
Yes, no, it is good. The one caveat is that you have to be willing to be a little adventurous, I think, and be willing to
Yeah.
try something a little different. If you only like one or two wines, or that's kind of where your palate's at the moment, maybe give that caveat to the sommelier before you ask him that question.
Yes.
Okay, I have one more question for you before we get into the speed round, which isn't rapid fire question. It's more just don't think too hard on the question or else we'll be
Okay.
here all day. But I also have to ask, we mentioned this in the very beginning, all the fun stuff you've done in the past and you're doing a lot of fun things now. Where do you see yourself 10 years from now? What are you doing? What have you done? What are some things on that dream list that you'd like to see happen?
Yeah. So my life's work, right? I started when I was 16 years old. I used to throw live music shows. I used to throw hardcore shows. And I didn't even particularly like hardcore music, but all of my friends in high school were in hardcore bands and there was nowhere to play because the clubs are 21 and whatever. So I would rent out the basement of a bowling alley, skip Friday school and just flyer 3 high school parking lots and throw 300-person concerts, right? So bringing people together is it's in my DNA. And the wine festivals, moving on to the semi-permanent pop-up locations, I really want a permanent, large scale. I want to build Italy for wine, right? I want to build
Ooh.
a giant, fun, immersive, educational place where you can come, taste things, learn things, just have fun with your friends all around wine, and put them all over the country. I have small goals, right? So,
Well, it's clear you do small things, right? Just like this big
yeah,
rosé mansion, big wine
right?
festival. Yeah, it seems just little stuff.
Yeah, and this book was really me laying that foundation. I wanted to create the building blocks for it. I've had to teach and train so many people over the years, and putting this all into one book, now it can be here, this is what we're going to do. We're going to talk about wine differently, and this is how we're going to do it, right? We're going to tell stories. We're going to connect the dots. We're going to start with information people already know and add on to it. Wine doesn't exist in a void. Assume people are smart. Let's have some fun. Let's learn some things and let's bring back the romance.
Yes, I love it. Okay, I lied. There's one more question before the speed round. I just realized. Can you tell folks who are listening in how can they get their hands on your book?
Yeah. So it's available in all the major bookstores, all the big online ones. It's in a lot of small independent bookshops, so you can support them. And you can also buy it directly from me. You can get signed copies at rebelschoolofwine.com. You can follow on Instagram and TikTok, Rebel School of Wine. And yeah, it's pretty hard to miss at this point. It's actually really cool. It's on 1,000 different bookshelves all across the
That
country.
must be so cool, seeing it on, seeing your book on a bookshelf.
It's so cool. And it's even more cool because my publisher doesn't tell me where they are. So I just run across them. Once a week, a friend that I haven't talked to in 10 years sends me a photo of my book somewhere. I'm like, I don't even know where that is. That's awesome. That makes me
Yay!
really excited.
Oh, that's so fun. And for folks that are listening around when this drops, I do have a discount code. So if you go on to, I do recommend shopping at your local shop if you can. But if you go on rebelschoolofwine.com and use the promo code Cork and Fizz, all caps, all together, and is spelt out, Cork and Fizz, you can get a signed copy of Tyler's book and a free pack of wine stickers, which are really freaking cool. They're on my laptop right now. And you can get that for $30.
And you get a signed copy too.
Yes, and it's a signed copy, and it's $15 off, and it's such an amazing deal. And if you listen to this podcast, I'm like 100% sure you'd like this book. Like it's like pretty clear that there is a connection here between folks listening to this and that would like this book. So
And I
go check
package
it
ship
out.
every single one myself. And so like I
Oh,
drag them down 2 flights of stairs all the way to the post office in Chinatown. They love me there. So yeah.
I love it. There's an active love going on as well with everybody. Okay. All right. So, like I said, this last bit is what I call my speed round. It's mostly because they're questions that like you could have a million answers for. And so I'm just
Yeah.
asking for like potentially like what's the first thing that pops in your head or what's the thing you want to share with
Okay.
folks. So, first question is what is your favorite wine at the moment?
Favorite wine at the moment. I love some of the legacy California wineries. Like I love Ridge Winery, and then I love some of the newer ones. My friend owns this winery called Extra Dimensional Wine Co. Yeah, Hardy, and it's awesome. It's his wines are so good. And yeah, so it's kind of like compare and contrast, but it's all the same. I'm really into California wine right now.
Interesting. Okay, I like it. All right. How about what is like a good go-to bottle of wine to bring it to like a dinner party or to share with friends?
Bubbles. I always bring bubbles. Lambrusco is really great. It's a talking point. I've never met anybody that dislikes Lambrusco. Prosecco. If you really like them, you can bring some champagne.
I like it. Okay, how about a favorite wine region that you've visited?
Probably the one I went to most recently, which is I went to Jerez in the south of Spain, and where they make sherry. It was so cool. It was so cool. And it was so cheap. Didn't pay more than €2 for a glass of wine. We went to a 1-star Michelin tapas restaurant, bottles of rosé, €17 for a bottle. Like I was ready to move there. I was just like, I live here now.
Oh my God, that's just even more reason. Yeah, if I don't end up in Spain one day
Like, what are we
or
doing?
living there, I've visited twice now and I freaking love it.
What are
Yeah.
we doing?
Okay, what about I'm going to flip that on its head. What's a wine region you'd like to visit that you have not yet?
Australia. I haven't been to Australia ever, and I wanted to go. It's the flight's far. It takes. I don't have 2 weeks that I can go, but pretty much all the regions. Like I want to go to the ones around Melbourne. I want to go to the classic ones. I want to, see the red clay soil. This means a lot because I am terrified of snakes. I'm so like I have an irrational fear of snakes that I want to go to Australia and walk around the fields. That's how much I want to go.
You're like, I will risk it for the wine. Like, give it to me.
Like I can't look up pictures of snakes on the
Oh my
internet. Like
God.
I am not. It is a fear that I'm fine with. I don't need to get rid of, but I'm willing to go to Australia because I'm not excited about Australian wine right now.
Oh, I love it. Okay. How about a favorite wine and food pairing, like a go to that you enjoy or a special treat?
Oh, I put it in the book. Hear me out. California Chardonnay and chips and guacamole. It is
Really?
perfect on a nice warm California day. California food, the foods that are really popular and or were invented in California, like the fast food hamburger invented in California, the mission style burrito, the burrito that we all know is a burrito invented in California. All of these things actually go really, really well with California wine. But Chardonnay, like a slightly oaky,
Mm-hmm.
little buttery, but still crisp, refreshing with chips and fresh guacamole. There's no final meal. That's what I'm eating. That's my last bite.
Okay, I have to try that because I'll be honest, I've like struggled to find a wine that pairs with chips and guacamole. Like I always struggle to like I always end up just like having like honestly a margarita or
Well, yeah, you
or,
can't
or
go with
beer,
one of
right?
those like you can't go with one of those like light, dainty burgundy Chardonnays. You got to go with the California. It doesn't have to be like the super punch in the face like KJ. Like that's a bit too much. There's a balance though, because you need that fresh,
Yes.
zestiness, but then you also need that kind of like that weight and that flavor.
Okay.
Every Sunday, I wrote half this book while I lived in California, and I was just like, every Sunday, that's what I did.
All right, I'm adding it to my list to try. That sounds fun. I do love a little oaky Chardonnay, so that also fits well for me. Okay, last two questions. If you were given $1,000 to spend on wine, what would you buy?
Oh, I would go to my favorite wine store and I would buy 3 cases of wine, single bottle from, I would just grab all the thing. like 20, 30, 50 up, like high, low. I would get 3 cases of wine and I would invite everybody I know over and throw a really fun party.
Oh my
That's
God.
what
That
I would do,
Of course, that is such a perfect answer. I mean, perfect answer in general, and also for you. I'm
right?
like, of course that would be the way
Try this one. Let's
way to
try this
go.
one. What's this one
Yes.
taste like? I don't know. I rarely drink the same wine twice. I love trying different things and I love hanging out with people and I love bringing people together. And so that's exactly, what I would do.
Yay. Okay, that's so fun. Last question. What is your top tip for folks who are interested in learning about wine after buying the Rebel School of Wine, of course, after that?
After that. So this was the advice I got when I first got into wine, right? You want to drink as much wine as you can. And I don't mean like,
Get drunk every night. Yes, that's not what we're
yeah,
saying.
you want to try as many different wines
There
as
we
you
go.
possibly can. And you want to read as much as you can. And at first, it's not going to make sense. What you're tasting, you won't really know. What you're reading, you won't really understand. But then it starts coming together. The aha moment, I remember the first time this ever came together for me. I was working in a wine shop. I didn't have a lot of money. I was just buying $10, $12 bottles of wine. And I got the Lawn Rioja Crianza, right? And I was tasting it and I'm like, oh, I get this like kind of tastes like vanilla a little bit. And I was like, oh, that's the American oak because they aged them in. I was like, oh my God. And then I was like addicted. I was like, this is so much fun. Okay, I'm in. But then, like I read the story about like, oh, the American oak because the money and like things and they left out the whole dictator part, but it's
What can you do?
but it
They try
comes
to forget that
together.
part. Yes.
And you don't have to just read wine books. When I wrote this book, I really stopped. There's a couple wine books references I use, but then I stopped reading wine books and I just started reading history books and science books and then matching dates up. And when you start doing that, it's like, oh,
Yes.
like, yeah, sure. The phylloxera epidemic in France was in the 1800s and that was a major problem. But what was really the big problem was the Franco-Prussian War when 1 in 3 men in France died and they didn't have enough manual labor to replant, And so you don't have to just read wine books to understand wine. You can
Yes.
read about history and science and, culture and, you know,
Yes. No,
read and read and drink.
yes. And I like that you called out too that you're like, it's okay if it doesn't make sense right away. Or if you're not like if you're just like, I'm gathering all this information, but it just seems to be like kind of sitting in these little ponds in my brain and they're not connecting together. And it's like, don't worry. Everybody starts there. That's how it
Mhm.
happens. And at some point you'll dig a little well between two ponds. And you'll be like, oh crap. That is that. Oh yeah, that makes sense. And
That's
you just
the
you just have to
piece.
wait for that to happen. But as try more things and like you said,
Mhm.
read more things, I really love that because I think I struggled with that at first, but then that's what made it so cool was it was just like, I'm just going to keep gathering information.
Yeah.
And then when somebody says something, I'm going to be like, oh, I know that. I know something that's connected to that.
And the longer you get into it, the more some of these things click like 10 years later. Like it takes a minute. It takes a minute, but you just have to keep swimming. You have to keep doing both. And it's just going to
Yeah.
keep coming together, But yeah, don't get frustrated. Like if you don't know what you're tasting, that's fine. If you don't know what you're reading, that's fine. You will.
Yeah. And just enjoy it. I mean, heck, half of learning about wine is tasting it. And if you don't know what you're tasting, you can just also enjoy what's in the glass and just like go with that.
Yeah, absolutely. You better enjoy it because, what else is the point? Like, what else are we
Right.
doing?
Oh, I love it. All right. Well, this has been an amazing interview. Thank you so much again for
Yeah.
joining and for sharing your amazing book. And like I said, for folks listening, be sure. So this is the second part of the interview. So go on Instagram where you will see a giveaway for 2 of Tyler's books. And you can go there or you can just get your own Rebel School of Wine, get a signed copy with stickers. They're amazing. rebelschoolofwine.com. But awesome. Thank you so much again for joining, Tyler.
Thank you so much. This is so much fun.
Yes. All right. Cheers. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Cork and Fizz Guide to Wine podcast. If you'd like to purchase your own copy of Tyler's book, Rebel School of Wine, go to rebelschoolofwine.com and use the promo code CORKANDFIZZ to get a signed copy of her book and a free pack of wine stickers for only $30. That is $15 off. That promo code again is CORKANDFIZZ. The and is spelt out and it is all one word. And I'll have everything in the show notes for you. So if you're like, I still don't know, just go check the show notes. And be sure to follow Rebel School of Wine on Instagram and TikTok to learn more from Tyler. And if you love this episode as much as I did, I would so appreciate it if you have not had a chance yet to please rate the podcast and leave a review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. I know it's a lot to ask because you're probably like driving right now or you're walking and you can't grab your phone out. So if that's the case, just put it in your mind and say, I'm going to do this for Haley because it would really, really help her out. But if you are somewhere where you're just sitting and listening to the podcast, please go and leave it a review, a rating. You can also leave comments, I believe, on Spotify now. So let me know what you thought of the interview. In next week's episode, I'm hoping to have a really exciting interview set up for you with a sommelier who I met at Taste Washington. The plan is to talk about the wine tariff situation that's going on and just in general what they are, talk more about the consumers, wine consumers, and the different generations. It's going to be an interesting conversation, and I am so looking forward to it. I'm just hoping we get it planned in time so it can be released. If not, I think I'll fill in with a little solo episode on wine certification. So it'll be a surprise to all of us what comes next week. Thanks again for listening, and if you want to learn more about wine, come follow me at Cork and Fizz on Instagram. And if you're interested in exploring new wines and joining an incredible community of wine lovers, be sure to sign up for my virtual tasting club, The Cork Crew. Head to thecorkcrew.com to learn more and use code WINESPECIAL to get your first 2 months for just $8 a month. Cheers!